The sun of early September had that golden tint that only comes once a year, when the air smells of ripened fruit and the vineyards hum with life. The leaves shimmered between green and copper, trembling in the breeze that came from the hills. Inside the old winery, where stone walls had seen decades of work and laughter, the air was thick with the scent of crushed grapes and fermenting juice. I had been working there for almost 20 years. My hands, once smooth, had learned the language of barrels, presses, and vines. Every wrinkle in my skin carried the dust of harvests past. My colleague, David, was younger than me by a decade, full of jokes and restless energy. Together, we worked the morning shift, our boots sticky from grape juice, our clothes stained with purple marks that no soap could erase. The season of harvest was always our busiest. Trucks arrived loaded with grapes from nearby hills, and the courtyard echoed with shouts, laughter, and the metallic rhythm of machines. We pressed, poured, cleaned, and carried until our backs ached, but there was something deeply satisfying about it. The smell of must, the bubbling of fermentation tanks, the hiss of steam, all of it told us that the year's effort was finally taking form. That particular day was long and heavy. The sun was hot even through the open windows, and the air inside the winery clung to us like a second skin. David had brought a small radio, and music played faintly between the clattering sounds of barrels and machinery. At one point, I remember stopping for a sip of water, leaning against the wall and thinking how familiar everything felt. Then, a faint noise broke through the usual hum. It was small, a dull thud, like something rolling off a shelf. Both of us turned our heads, but the sound seemed to come from the far side of the storage room, behind the stacked barrels. "Probably just a rat," David said, wiping sweat from his forehead. I nodded. "Could be. They sneak in when the harvest starts. Too much sweet air." We went back to work, laughing a little. The barrels had always creaked and settled as they aged. Small sounds were nothing new. But minutes later, the calm broke apart. A thunderous crash shook the ground beneath our feet, the kind of sound that makes your stomach drop, wood splintering, metal rings clanging, echoes bouncing off stone walls. I froze mid-step. David's eyes widened, and we both ran toward the noise. In the far corner, where the larger barrels were kept, two of them had fallen. One had rolled halfway across the floor, leaking streaks of dark red wine. The other lay still, heavy and unmoving. At first, I thought only of the loss, the wasted wine, the damage. But then a sound cut through my thoughts, soft, trembling, and sharp all at once. A meow. Not just any meow. It was high-pitched and desperate, filled with pain. "Wait," David whispered. "Did you hear that?" We moved closer, stepping carefully around the spilled liquid. The noise came from beneath the fallen barrel. A flash of orange fur, small and trembling, appeared from under the edge. My heart clenched. "God, no," I muttered. "There's a cat under there." We looked at each other just for a second before rushing forward. The barrel was large, a full oak cask used for fermenting, easily several hundred kilos. We couldn't lift it outright, but we managed to roll it just enough by using an iron bar for leverage. When we finally freed the space beneath, the cat lay there, breathing heavily. Its small body was pressed against the floor, eyes wide open, one paw trembling. It was a ginger cat, the kind with soft fur and faint stripes, like sunlight breaking through dust. I'd seen it around before, darting between crates, always too shy to come close. I never thought much of it. David knelt beside it. "Poor thing," he murmured. "It's alive." I crouched down too, gently running a hand above its head without touching. "Easy there, little one. We'll help you." The cat looked up at us, its eyes glistening. And in that moment, everything around us fell silent. The hum of machines, the dripping of wine, even the chatter outside seemed to fade. There was only that small creature, looking at us as if trying to understand why pain had found it in this place. We wrapped it in an old towel and lifted it carefully. David's hands shook a little as he held it close. "What do we do now?" he asked. "There's the vet down the road. Let's go, quickly." Without another word, we left the winery behind. I could still smell the grapes and wine on my clothes, but another scent, fear, maybe hope, lingered as we walked out into the warm afternoon, carrying something far more fragile than any barrel of wine. The road to the village was dusty, winding between low stone fences and rows of old olive trees. The air outside the winery felt strangely quiet, after all the noise we'd left behind. No clattering barrels, no voices, only the faint buzz of insects and the sound of our boots on gravel. David carried the cat in his arms, still wrapped in the towel. Every few steps he looked down to make sure it was breathing. Its tiny chest rose and fell weakly, but there was life there, fragile and persistent. "You think it'll make it?" he asked, his voice uncertain. I looked ahead, squinting against the sun. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but we owe it a chance." The veterinary office sat at the edge of town, a small white building with peeling blue shutters. The smell of hay and antiseptic greeted us as we stepped inside. Behind the counter, an older man in a green coat looked up from his desk. "Ah," he said, standing. "What do we have here?" David placed the towel gently on the table. "A cat," he said quickly. "Got caught under a barrel. It's still breathing, but..." The vet raised a hand. "Let's see." He spoke softly, his hands practiced and sure. He examined the cat's legs, touched its ribs, and peered into its eyes. The little creature flinched once, but didn't struggle. After a few tense minutes, the vet sighed and smiled faintly. "Lucky," he said. "No broken bones, maybe a few bruises. You brought it in just in time." I felt my shoulders drop in relief. David exhaled audibly. "So she'll be fine?" he asked. "She will," the vet replied, cleaning a small scratch on the cat's side. "But she'll need rest, food, and a warm place to stay for a few days. She's been through a shock." David looked at me. I could see the question in his eyes before he said anything. "We'll keep her at the winery," I said. "It's warm there, and she's already used to the place." The vet nodded. "That's good. She'll heal faster if she's somewhere familiar." He handed us a small bottle of ointment and a few instructions. David thanked him, and we left, the cat still bundled in the towel, but breathing more steadily now. As we walked back, I couldn't help but think about how strange life was, how quickly a moment could shift from routine to something else entirely. One minute you're pressing grapes and counting barrels, the next you're carrying a small, wounded creature through the afternoon sun, hoping your hands are gentle enough to keep it alive. When we reached the winery, the day was beginning to cool. The light filtered through the open doors in golden streaks, dust particles dancing in the air. The noise of work had faded. The others had gone home. We found an old crate in the corner, lined it with rags, and set the cat inside. It curled up immediately, exhausted, but its breathing was steady. "Look at her," David whispered. "She's tough." I smiled faintly. "She's a survivor." We cleaned up the mess from the fallen barrels. One was cracked and we lost some wine, but the damage wasn't as bad as I had feared. Later that evening, when the light outside turned the sky purple and the air grew cooler, we sat by the open door of the winery. The day's exhaustion settled over us like a blanket. David handed me a bottle, last year's wine, and we poured 2 small glasses. "To her," he said, lifting his glass toward the crate. "To her," I echoed, "and to every stubborn life that refuses to give up." We drank in silence for a while. The cat stirred, yawned, and blinked at us sleepily before tucking her nose under her paw again. "Do you ever think," David said after a moment, "that maybe we're not so different? We get crushed, bruised, but we keep going." I looked at him, then at the cat. "Maybe that's what life is," I said. "A constant pressing, like the grapes we crush. Pain first, but something beautiful comes out of it if you endure." He smiled faintly. "That's a winemaker's way of looking at the world." "Maybe," I said. "But maybe it's just the truth." That night, I stayed later than usual. Before locking up, I checked on the cat one last time. She looked peaceful now, her body rising and falling with the rhythm of sleep. I reached out and gently stroked her head. "Rest well, little one," I whispered. "You've earned it." Then I turned off the lights, leaving the faint glow of the moon spilling through the windows, silvering the barrels and the soft outline of a small ginger form that, somehow, had become a part of our world. The days that followed passed in their usual rhythm. Long hours, the smell of grapes thick in the air, the constant hum of the machines. Yet something had changed. The winery no longer felt quite the same. There was a softness in the air, a sense of quiet companionship that hadn't been there before. The little ginger cat, we hadn't given her a name yet, began to heal quickly. Each morning, when I came in, I found her sitting in her crate, eyes brighter, her fur smoother. David brought her milk and bits of bread soaked in warm water. At first, she ate cautiously, glancing up between bites as if to make sure we wouldn't take it away. But soon, she began to trust us. By the 3rd day, she was walking again, limping slightly, but with determination that made us both smile. She explored the corners of the winery, sniffing at barrels, weaving between our boots, sometimes curling up on a stack of burlap sacks to nap while we worked. "She likes it here," David said one afternoon as he cleaned the press. "Of course she does. She knows this place. It smells of life and a little danger." He laughed. "Kind of like us." The other workers noticed her too. Some brought her scraps from their lunches, others would stop to scratch her behind the ears. She seemed to enjoy the attention, but never lost her independent streak. She came and went as she pleased, vanishing among the barrels only to reappear hours later, stretching lazily in a sunbeam. The days of harvest grew heavier. More grapes arrived, more barrels filled, and fatigue set in. But every time I looked up and saw her trotting across the floor, tail held high, something inside me lifted. She reminded me of resilience, of how even small lives can carry courage and silence. One afternoon, as the sun slanted through the high windows, she jumped up onto the wooden counter near where I worked. I had been filtering a batch of wine, hands sticky with juice and skin sore from hours of labor. She sat beside me and began to purr, a deep, steady sound that filled the air like a quiet engine of calm. I paused and smiled. "You're not afraid anymore, huh?"
She blinked slowly, as if answering, and leaned against my arm. David walked in just then and chuckled. "Looks like she's picked her favorite. Don't get jealous. You still bring the milk." He grinned. "Yeah, but she's loyal to whoever gives her warmth. Can't blame her for that." As the days passed, we finally found a name for her. Amber. It fit perfectly, the color of her fur glowing like aged wine under the afternoon sun. Amber became part of our small world. She slept near the barrels at night, hunted the occasional mouse, and greeted us each morning with a soft meow. Sometimes she perched on the window ledge, watching the workers outside, her tail swishing slowly as if keeping time with the rhythm of our days. It was strange how much presence one tiny creature could bring. The winery felt more alive, not just from the fermenting wine, but from her quiet energy. One evening, after the others had left, David and I sat outside again, the hills turning gold in the fading light. Amber sat between us, licking her paws, completely at ease. "You know," David said, "I used to think this job was just work, just sweat and routine. But lately, it feels different." I nodded. "Because of her?" He shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe because she made me notice things again, small things. The way the wind smells when it changes direction, the color of the grapes before dusk. I'd stopped seeing those." I looked down at Amber, who had now curled up beside my boot. I said quietly, "She reminded us of something we forget too easily." "What's that?" "That even in a place built for work, there's room for care, for life that doesn't ask for anything in return." David smiled faintly, staring out at the rows of vines stretching into the horizon. "You're getting philosophical again," I said with a laugh. "Maybe that's what 20 harvests will do to a man." The laughter faded into silence. The smell of fermenting grapes drifted out through the open doors, and somewhere inside, the soft gurgle of wine filled the barrels like a steady heartbeat. Amber purred softly, and the sound mingled with the evening breeze. That night, I stayed even later than usual. I checked the temperature of the tanks, tightened the lids of the barrels, and finally turned off the main lights. In the dim glow of the emergency lamp, I saw Amber hop lightly onto the counter where the press stood. She looked around, as if surveying her kingdom, this old stone winery, these people who had somehow become her family. And in that quiet moment, I realized how deeply she belonged here, how in saving her, we had unknowingly saved a small part of ourselves, too.
The harvest season came to an end slowly, the way all long things do. Not with a sharp ending, but with a gradual easing of noise, a soft retreat of chaos into quiet. The trucks stopped coming, the courtyard emptied. The air grew cooler, touched with the first breath of autumn. Inside the winery, the barrels stood still, lined up in perfect rows, each one filled and sealed, the year's work resting in silence, turning slowly into something worth keeping. Amber still roamed the cellar like she owned it. She had grown stronger, her fur thick and glossy, her limp almost gone. She spent her mornings chasing shadows, and her afternoons dozing on top of the warm pipes that ran along the wall. Everyone who came to the winery knew her now. The manager, who was usually all business, had even started leaving bits of cooked chicken from his lunch for her. David said she was a lucky charm. Since she showed up, he said, no machine's broken down and no one's cut their hand. I laughed at that, but deep down I wondered if maybe he was right. Not in the literal sense, but in spirit. Sometimes a bit of kindness changes the air around you, makes the days feel lighter, the work a little easier. One evening, as I walked through the cellar checking the barrels, I noticed Amber sitting by one of the windows. The sunset filtered through the glass, turning her fur to gold. She looked out at the hills, watching the last rays slip away. something in that quiet scene stopped me. For 20 years, I had walked these same paths, from the vineyards to the cellar, from barrel to barrel, season after season. I had seen thousands of grapes crushed, hundreds of barrels filled, and countless bottles sealed and shipped away. But rarely had I paused long enough to simply see. Amber had done that, not with words, not with grand gestures, but with her small, steady presence. She had reminded me that life doesn't just happen in big moments. It lives in the small pauses, in the quiet sound of purring beside the fermenting tanks, in the way sunlight slides through dusty air, in the silent gratitude that comes from knowing you did something good even if no one else noticed. That evening, David joined me. We poured 2 glasses of the new wine, not ready yet, still rough and young, but full of promise. "To the season," he said. "And to her," I added, nodding toward Amber. She turned her head at the sound of our voices and gave one soft meow, as if to acknowledge the toast. We laughed quietly, the kind of laughter that doesn't break the silence, but fills it gently. David leaned back against a barrel. "You ever think," he said, "how strange it is that something so small can make us care this much?" I looked at him and then at Amber, who was now cleaning her paws, utterly content. "I think," I said slowly, "that caring is what makes all this, the work, the days, the years, mean something. Without it, we're just pressing grapes and counting bottles." He nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "Maybe that's what real work is, not just what you do with your hands, but what you give from your heart." The evening deepened. The smell of the new wine filled the air, raw, young, alive. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird called. I took a sip from my glass, tasting the future in it. Bitter, sweet, unfinished. When I looked down again, Amber had curled up between us, purring softly, her warmth steady against the cool air. And for the first time in a long while, I felt completely at peace. Now, years later, when I think back to that day, the crash of the barrels, the cry that pulled us from our work, the rush to save her, it all feels like a quiet lesson written in the language of coincidence. We thought we were rescuing a helpless creature, but in truth, she was rescuing us from routine, from indifference, from the blindness that comes when you stop looking for meaning in the small things. Every harvest teaches you something. It shows you that transformation is born from pressure, that grapes must be crushed to release their sweetness, that time and patience turn chaos into harmony. And maybe people are the same. Maybe we all get pressed and bruised by life, only to discover that something purer waits within us if we endure with grace. Amber stayed at the winery for many years. She grew old among the barrels and the scent of oak and fruit. Even after she was gone, her memory lingered, a reminder that compassion, once poured into the world, never truly evaporates.